I love my fast cars, but I personally, I don't drive fast. People who know me, tendency they call me slow and safe and what have you. So, do you think the Honda Prelude is the sports coupe for me? Well, after all the rumors, the previews, the sneak peeks, it's finally here. So, we're going to be checking it out, and here's going to be my first impression on Honda's flagship sports coupe. So do you like what you see? This is probably one of the more controversial cars to have come out in the market simply because of its looks. But when you look at the Prelude, some people say that it looks like the Toyota Prius. And of course, with this front end right here, you can't deny the family semblance. But according to the Honda's product planning team, that wasn't on purpose. The reason why they have this front end was to make sure that the Prelude looks as wide as possible, low and wide as possible, giving it a more sportier stance. Now, you would see that with the way they treated things like the headlights, because as you can see, this is primarily the daytime running lights, and this provides the visual length to the front end of the car. Other things that they've done is actually also do the headlights and put them right here, and this nice black chrome grille in the middle. I won't have to say it really looks like a grille because it's all down there. And as you can see, it's all gloss black elements in order to give the car, or to emphasize that the car has this low stance. Now, as controversial as the front end is, underneath, Honda tells me that they wanted to start with the Civic as a basis, but ended up using the Civic Type Rs instead. Now, why? They wanted to go with the wider tracks, the wider front and rear tracks. That's on purpose because they wanted to fit bigger, meatier tires. In this case, it's 19-inch alloy wheels, 235/40. That's an inch bigger than what you find in the Civic RS. It also has the Brembo brakes. It's co-branded. It's a Honda Prelude Brembo brakes right here in the front. It's also another thing that came from the Civic Type R. Now, towards to the side, you would notice the absence of body lines, and that's again on purpose because Honda wanted to create something that's all about volume. It's all about being shaped by the wind, and it has to do with the overall concept of the Prelude, which is it's supposed to be a glider, the ultimate glide, as they call it. Now, this is probably my most favorite part of the Prelude, and that would be the rear end. As controversial as the front end is, this one is downright sexy. I like the way that they've done the full-length light bar right here. No more H logo. It's one of the first, if not the first Honda in the Philippines to receive the HONDA lettering spelled out right here. And of course, the model name itself, which is right here in the middle, it's sort of like Porsche-ish, I would have to say. And it's a throwback to the Prelude of old. And overall, it gives this nice, sexy stance and emphasizes the low stance of the car. So this is probably the most dramatic aspect. Now, one of the things that's amazing about this car is that the back end has also contributed to this nice, wide cargo area. You can put 2 luggage in there. You can put a set of 4 tires, also the same 235/40/19 tires. You can put 2 golf bags. You can put a mountain bike in there with the front wheel removed. In any case, this car is all about practicality. It fits into what Honda wants a Prelude to be, which is supposed to be an everyday sports car. So if you're thinking of like getting something that's sporty that you can drive any day of the week and put your groceries, well, this is probably the car that you should get. Now, as great as the Prelude is outside, we'll have to take a look at how the inside looks like, and I'm going to show it to you right now. Now, if you've been familiar with Honda's modern cabin design, you'll be very familiar with what you get inside the Prelude. Some of the elements are still there, like the mesh on the aircon vents, but it's not anymore the same as the Civics or the CRVs where you have the mesh go all the way through across the dashboard. So this one has a more different flavor. Honda has implemented a blue and white colorway, and that's because it's all about gliding. It's supposed to be representative of the skies. So whether you find that a bit controversial to your liking, well, too bad. It's blue and white for the Prelude. Now, in terms of overall design, again, it's all about comfort. As you can see, there's a lot of headroom, at least for the front passengers, as well as a lot of leg room, a lot of storage. I mean, you have large cup holders right here in the middle. There's even a wireless charger right there, a sizable glove box, and of course, the armrest center console. Now, another thing that's very different from the Prelude would be the design of the steering wheel and the seats themselves. This is Honda's first implementation of a flat bottom steering wheel, and Honda says it's all about in keeping with the Prelude's grand touring character. It's about making it easy to grip while also increasing the space available to bigger drivers. So some of you plus size people out there will probably like the Prelude. Of course, nice tactile controls right here and the nice suede center marker right here. Very subtle, but it's one of the little touches that they've done different from, say, a Civic or a CRV. Another thing I'd like to mention is the front seats. Aside from having just this blue and white colorway, Honda has implemented two types of constructions depending on where you sit. The driver's seat is a bit more upright with firmer support and heavier bolstering, while the front passenger seat has less of aggressive bolstering and a softer cushion. That's on purpose because the driver is supposed to be kept in place when he or she is enjoying a bit of a spirited drive, but in case you're bringing a significant other, and Honda likes to emphasize it repeatedly during this first drive or first impression, they won't have a problem getting in or out. If your date decides to wear a skirt, there won't be any difficulty going through a heavy bolstering on the seat. Other things that are worth noting would be the Bose sound speaker system, which also acts as the active sound control system, and of course, full digital gauges and the same infotainment system that we find in a Civic or a CRV. If there's one thing that I just don't get, it would be the center console. I mean, Honda says that they want the Prelude to be sporty, but I don't understand why they went with the push-button design. I've been driving the Prelude now for about 30 minutes, and each time my cameraman's been telling me to move the car around, I keep on fiddling and mistaking buttons. I think they should have stuck with the shifter right here. Regardless, at least the drive mode is right here within easy reach, and of course the magic Sport Plus button. We're gonna get to the performance part of this first look in a bit, but for now, I'm gonna step into the back seats and show you just how livable or maybe not so livable they are. When we saw the Prelude at the Japan Mobility Show, we had such a fun time testing out the rear seats, and it's for this reason. Although this is a bit of a cheat mode, as you can see, there's a sizable amount of rear legroom, especially if your front passengers and driver would be cooperative enough to give you that space. But what is the problem would be the rear headroom. As you can see, I'm about 170 cm or about 5'7", and I actually don't fit in here. So I will have to do a bit of contortioning just to be able to clear a portion of the Prelude's roof line right here. And even if I do clear it, I always have to be careful because the rear glass right here isn't fixed. This is part of the hatch. So I think at this point in time, I would have to say that the rear seats are best kept for little kids or as an extension of your storage, as you can see right here. Now, I guess Honda kind of realized it themselves because the rear seat material is clearly of a different quality to the ones in front. Whereas the front would have the blue and white leather seats with a houndstooth pattern. This one is the scratchy fabric seats you get from maybe a base Honda Brio. And I think it pretty much just says, just drop these rear seats and use it as a trunk space. So we get to the most awaited part. Just how does the Prelude drive? Now, okay, the course that Honda Cars Philippines has prepared for us is actually quite limited, but they wanted us to sample all sorts of the different modes and different abilities of the Prelude. And that's perhaps one of the more salient points that I like to point out. This car is not about a point and shoot type of thing. It's not just the type of car that you get in, start the car, put in drive, and drive off. This car has various driving modes that you can adjust. 3 driving modes, and then you can have this shift plus on or off. Now, because of that, the driving characteristics of the Prelude would change. One day, it can be just as sedate and livable as a Civic hybrid. And I guess that's partly the point because it uses the same 2-liter HEV dual motor system. So with that, it makes about 184 PS of power and 315 Newton meters of torque. The exact same figures. But what makes it different is that once you shift the modes from comfort to GT or to even sport mode, there are adaptive dampers put on on both ends. It's the same system that you find in the Type R, and it changes the way the steering works. It tightens or lessens the amount of effort, and it also makes the suspension stiffer. That means the Prelude becomes a bit of a sportier car. It will not reach the level that is similar to the Honda Civic Type R. Again, this is not supposed to be a track car, but it's a sportier car. So it provides you maybe just a bit of more excitement if you're gonna plan to bring this car maybe up to a winding canyon roads like Canyon Road up Baguio, or maybe if you'd like to bring it around the Tanay Ring in Rizal. Regardless, that is precisely the Prelude's point. It's all about providing you that bit of more excitement to your everyday car. Now, finally, the Shift Plus mode. It's probably the weirdest feature that the Prelude would have simply because it simulates driving a regular combustion car even if this one is almost always driven by the electric motors. So I'll give you a point. So right now, we're on, I'm going to put it to drive with the Shift Plus mode off. With that, even if I try to, for example, rev the hell out of it, the car will not rev. See, it just creates that sound, but there's nothing. The car will not rev like a regular combustion vehicle. But when you're on the move with the Shift Plus on, the car uses the combination of its internal combustion engine, the transmission tuning, and all sorts of fancy software to give you that simulated feel of when you're driving a car equipped with a dual clutch automatic. That's what Honda says. Personally, I would want a bit more sound to come out of there because I put everything in sport with the Shift Plus mode on. I still found the car a bit too quiet for my tastes, but I understand where they're coming from. I understand what they're getting. Another surprising thing we did during the first impression drive of the Prelude was a drag race with the Civic RS EHEV. Now, again, as I mentioned earlier, both cars would have the same sort of powertrain, but quite surprisingly, this one pulled slightly ahead versus its four-door counterpart. Partly, I think it's because of the way the transmission and the engine's tuned, and also, of course, the way that this is a bit more lightweight. I mean, feel free to correct me on that, but I think it's more lightweight than the four-door. So with that in mind, you'll be surprised to know that the Prelude is also very economical. Again, this is a full hybrid. So this one, aside from being number coding exempt, also does 25.6 kilometers per liter as per its official DOE data. And so imagine that. It's a sporty car that you can drive every day, no restrictions, and also get a lot of kilometers to the tank of gas. So I would have to say that it does really live up to its everyday usability design ethos. So we get to the most awaited part, the price. Honda's still very much coy about it, but I hear they say it's above 3 million pesos. And that's perhaps the biggest challenge that the Prelude is facing. Because for people who get it, they'll get it. And Honda says that they're targeting people who are nostalgic about what the Prelude nameplate stands for. But if it's about attracting a new sense of buyers, that's going to be a bit tougher. Simply because for that price point, for 3 million pesos, the Prelude finds itself in very tough company. There are a lot of affordable sports cars out there in the same price bracket. But overall, I would have to say that the Prelude doesn't deserve the same internet hate that it's been receiving. It's all about understanding what the car is built to do and engineered to do, and I would have to say that it lives up to those expectations. Of course, it's not perfect by any means, but I applaud you, Honda, for actually giving us this. At the time when everyone else is doing something purely electrified, at least they gave us something that is actually fun behind the wheel. And for some of you out there who are still on the fence on whether they should consider buying the Prelude, well, they should hop over to their nearest Honda dealership and try it for themselves. I mean, who knows? Maybe you're one of those who'd want that ultimate gliding feeling.